How are you?
Good, good.
How are you? Anybody got a yellow magic marker?
I have one.
I have a couple.
Okay. It is 6:30, so the Board of Selectmen meeting for Wednesday, May 4th, 2022 is now in session. First item on the agenda is coronavirus update. I don't see Deborah John Kuhn on the phone. I could read the statistics, however, from sent over from Health Nurse Deb Murphy. Total case count cumulative is 622. Total PCR tests 18,970. Total PCR tests in the last 2 weeks 243. That's from April 3rd to April 16th. Total positive is 25. Out of that 243, the 14-day positivity rate in Nahant is 10.29%. 14-day positivity rate in Massachusetts is 5.04%. And we currently have had 36 cases in April. We also still have at-home COVID tests available at Town Hall and the library. Residents can pick them up during regular business hours. And unless Tony, you had anything additional, I guess that's it on the COVID-19.
She just sent me like a half an hour ago some updated info from April 17th to April 30th. There's 258 tests and 27 positive. And so far in May, there's been 6 positive cases. And as Deb would say, that doesn't include those at-home tests. Right. Those are PCRs that she gets notified of. Or if somebody tests positive on a home test and calls one of our health nurses, she'll add that in too. So comparing, you mentioned the comparison of last April to this April?
I did not.
All right, so last April of 2021, there were 6 cases compared to this April, 36. So yeah. Obviously, with masks coming off and the latest variant being more contagious but less symptomatic in some cases, it seems to be that we're experiencing more positive cases compared to this time last year.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, there's there's certainly some number of unreported cases, people that take the at-home test. I would encourage people to pick up these at-home tests from the town hall and the library, because they're no good if nobody uses them, and they're sitting there. How many do you think you have left there, Tony?
Plenty. Come on up and grab them, as many as you like. And they extended the expiration date an extra 3 months. So the box says April 2022, but they sent us a extended expiration date to July of 2022.
All right. Good news. All right, I guess we can move on to opening comments. Before I make these announcements, I'd just like to say it's been my honor serving as selectman on this board for the past 3 years, and grateful for the voters for giving me a chance to do it for another 3 years. I've been sworn in by the town clerk, and I want to say it's been my pleasure serving with you, Selectman Cullinan and Selectman Canty. I appreciate the fact that we're all pulling together, and there's no bravado and no self-aggrandizement, just 3 people doing the best they can for the town. So looking forward to another 3 years, and I'm sure it's gonna be a busy 3 years. So with that, let's get to it.
And I would say, Josh, I would say back at you.
Thank you, Gene.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, spring boat launch. Jocelyn Marine will be at the wharf on May 14th to launch the boats. Reservations should be made 1 week in advance by calling Jocelyn Marine at 978-462-9717. Owners can launch earlier if the boat is accessible. 2022 resident parking stickers are available for purchase at nahant.org. The stickers are $10 each. All outstanding bills must be paid to the town, and a census must be completed. Compost area is open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 2022 resident sticker is required. Visit the Public Works Department page at nahant.org for accepted materials. Curbside leaf pickup will be offered on the following Mondays, May 9th, May 23rd. Leaves must be in a biodegradable bag only, no plastic bags. Leaves must be at your curb by 7 a.m. Recycling for metal, white goods, and TVs and computers is the last Saturday of each month from 8 a.m. to 12 noon behind the DPW garage on Flash Road. 2022 resident sticker is required. Certain fees may apply. Visit the Public Works Department page at nahant.org for accepted materials. Town-owned land study committee, there's a vacancy. I'll say we're quite eager to get this vacancy filled because there's some important work for this committee to do. So if you're interested, please send letters of interest to ktaylor@nahant.org. That's KTAYLOR @nahant.org.
Hey, Josh, I'm sure people are wondering, what does the town-owned land study committee do?
It makes recommendations of what to do with town-owned land. So I guess in a nutshell.
Specifically triggered when we have town-owned land authorized for sale by town meeting. So we have 2 town-owned land properties. One is a small sliver of the front corner of a residence steps that on paper seem to extend onto the street, but it doesn't in actual real life. So just a fixing of a deed issue there. And then the other one is the Coast Guard housing property.
Okay.
And there's a questionnaire, a list of questions that the Town and Land Study Committee goes through as part of their process. And what they basically the bulk of it is that they're looking at, comps, what the square footage on the open retail market is for these different properties. And like, for instance, the Coast Guard housing property, it'll be looking at what's the comparison market for open land up for sale in the current market. And so they'll give a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen as to what to expect during a procurement process. And I'm looking through my email because I know Dan Script sent me a copy of that list of questions not that long ago.
Yeah, I can dig it out again and send it before the meeting's over.
All right, thanks for that explanation, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Also, would like to take a moment to pay our respects and acknowledge the passing of long-term resident and former town employee Arthur Beretta, and offer our condolences to the Beretta family and his son, Nahant Fire Captain Robbie Beretta.
Yes.
Sad news. Those are all the announcements I have. Gene or Mark, do you have anything additional to add?
No,
I just want to thank the Tony and the town clerk for running a smooth election on Saturday. And thank all the town residents who showed up, even though there were no contested races. We had almost 300 people come and vote, so that's nice. And congratulate you, Josh, in your re-election. I also wanted to mention that I know Arthur Beretta spent a lot of time working at the Council on Aging, so he will be missed. So that's it.
Thanks.
yeah.
All right. We have a National Grid public hearing, and I see there's a National Grid rep on the phone. Do we have a motion to open that hearing?
I move that the Board of Selectmen open the National Grid public hearing.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Oh, maybe this is I guess we can have the discussion after this next motion, right? So the hearing is now open. We have another motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the petition submitted by National Grid to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity. Said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Ocean Street, Nahant, Mass. 01908, abutters number 4, number 5, and number 7, Ocean Street. We're given due notice of this hearing via certified mail, and the hearing notice was published in the newspaper, the Daily Item.
Second,
Okay, discussion.
I think we could probably start by inviting the National Grid representative to briefly provide a brief overview of the project.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good evening. My name is Adil Wahed Nabat. I'm with National Grid at 170 Medford Street in Malden. I am here on behalf of a customer at 7 Ocean Street who is requesting to have their service be placed underground rather than have a service drop overhead. A pole is right fairly in front of their property, and which is the about 5 feet of conduit will be installed. It would be a 1 3-inch conduit from the existing pole to their property.
Mm-hmm. All right, and in the petition, there's a little map showing that. I believe that's the house that's currently being renovated.
That is correct.
Mhm. All right.
How does that work? Is that by request, and is there any payment for that?
So typically a job like this is what we call a customer-driven job. It is for the customer. It is by the customer. We at National Grid petition on behalf of the customer to have conduits in the public way. Once the petition is approved, the customer is required to have a permit from the city to open up the road so they can have the work done in the public way.
Oh, thank you.
I see Esther Johnson has her hand up. Esther, do you want to unmute yourself and provide any comments? You're still muted.
Yeah.
So name and
Can
address.
you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just had a couple of questions where this is so close to my house. I would be interested in also, and I understand I'd have to hire my own electrician and get a separate work order from National Grid to actually have the overhead wires that go into my home, which is so close, to do this. And I understand there's a cost involved, but what I was hoping to do is perhaps be able to remove the telephone pole. If my house, the wires were underground and 7 Ocean Street is underground. I know John Collins across the street, he would, this all depends on cost too. He might be interested too. So I just don't understand the process a little bit. Is it possible to do it at this time? It seems like for me, the time would be the time to do it when it's, you're doing it at 7 Ocean Street. So I wanted to coordinate, see if the town is amenable to this. I don't know what it involves, but I just would be interested.
Maybe we can start with the National Grid representative describing the process. That makes sense.
It is a fairly straightforward process. She has mentioned every detail of it. It is put in a work request, and an engineer will be working with you to investigate the possibility of having this service, your service, be placed underground. I personally don't see an issue. You do have the pole right in front of your property, which you could siphon up to. However, removing a pole, that's something that you have to take into consideration. It's not just National Grid that's on a pole. Usually the telephone are also on that pole. The city, the fire line is also on that pole. So it's not as fairly easy as having the service drop be underground. Removing a pole can be difficult. It is possible, but it can be difficult. Maybe relocating the pole is ideally the way to go about it. Ocean Street, the island that is housing to 7 and 5, and I believe another property on there is a large island. So removing that pole would be really tough. But like I said, if a study needs to be done, then we will be happy to work with you. But a work request will need to be generated first.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I just drove by there before the meeting to look at the overhead wires. I'm trying to remember that pole. I think does it connect into poles running down Willow Road, or does it dead end at the corner?
It does, and unfortunately, it goes from Willow to Ocean, and it continues on up the road as well.
So it seems like to remove the pole would require sort of the entire. Well, I suppose you could have one section of underground utility, but it's a little bit awkward, right?
Right. It's difficult because what we refer to as a service line. It can be as simple as putting a conduit, but when it becomes multiple customers, then it's a crib, and a crib is required to have a transformer. So you can't really underground a small section and have everything overhead. So everything has to be overhead. For it to go underground, we will need to install a manhole, and that's just overkilling it for a small section.
How long does it take to process? So for example, if Ms. Johnson wanted to put in her own work order, how long does it take to process those?
As soon as she gets a work request, an engineer is usually assigned to it. I can give you my phone number right away. So when you put that work request, you can give me a call, and I'll be happy to be working with you. I'll be the engineer handling the service if you'd like.
Okay,
I don't mind giving it to you right now if you have a pen and a
I do,
if you're ready.
I do, yeah.
Okay, so it's 781
Uh-huh,
795
uh-huh,
5733.
five,
And this
seven.
is my cell phone. You can call me. I'll be happy to work with you on it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I guess my question is, maybe what's the purpose of me doing this if the telephone pole's not gonna come down? It's, that would, the end result, would be my end result, but it doesn't sound like that's gonna happen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
So can I ask a simple question? What would be the benefits of me putting this underground? Just because I know it's fairly close to my house. It's just, I mean, if we had a hurricane and the electricity that whatever it connects to, it seems like, you know, it would just be this pole. So does it give me that much benefit by spending the money and doing this, I guess? Does it, go ahead.
So aesthetically looking, people like to put their service as an underground, but keep in mind that that service drop that's coming to your house right now, that's a National Grid owned, while if it was an underground, it will be your own cable. So you have more control on that side.
Okay.
And then, but as far as if a hurricane comes and knocks down a pole, would you still have power? The answer to that is no, even if you do have a service that is underground.
Okay. All right.
The service drops down from the pole that's in the center of the picture we're looking at now, right? If Esther went underground, so if that pole fell or some other pole fell, that's the supply to an underground utility.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's mostly aesthetic.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it is pricey. I mean, we've had customers who've spent thousands and thousands of dollars because they didn't want that cable going across a window or going over their roof or some sort of a walkway, and they preferred that if it would be run underground because it's a lot safer. Wind can knock off service drops, but we typically like to keep ours tight so they don't do that. But customers do appreciate having the leverage of having their own wire running up to the pole.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your the information. It sounds like I probably am not going to do it. Obviously, the pole cannot come down, but I thank you for listening to my request. And I also, can I just close? I wanted to thank Kristen and KK in the Selectmen's office and the other office. They were terrific when I had a couple of questions last week. So I just appreciate their helping me. Okay, thank you.
Esther, I just wanted to mention, this is Mark.
Yeah,
Your house is so beautiful and historic, and I'm so glad to see number 7 being historically preserved. It looks beautiful.
Yes, it does. They're doing a great job. And when Adele and Jeff asked me a couple of years, when they started doing it, I just said, it's your property. You can do what you want with it. But I love what our houses look like. So I think maybe they listen to me a little bit, so yeah, thank
What are
you.
the styles, what are the styles of those houses, Esther? must-
It's a mansard roof. I don't know, I think it's late 1800s. I don't know, but I love the looks of the houses. So when they're doing a beautiful job,
Yeah.
it's finally coming along. It's a little slow, but they're coming along. So yeah.
And your house looks beautiful also, so.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think the colors are the original colors of the house. It was either the white with the green trim, or I had white with black trim, but I don't know. But thanks. I appreciate you listening to me. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but
Esther,
thank you.
Esther, before you jump up, do you have any?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any comments in favor or against the proposal?
No,
for your neighbor?
I'm in favor of it. I have no issues with it. I just was hoping that maybe that pole would come down. And sometime in the future, if the town ever does it, it would be nice for some of us to get these telephone poles down, but I know that's not a priority in the town's best interest at this point. So, thank you.
Thanks for the input, Esther.
Yes.
Any other comments? I have no comments, and I have no opposition to the change. All right, any other, no discussion? All right, then we can vote. Roll call vote, please.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rock on the line.
Josh Antrim, aye. Now we can close the National Grid public hearing.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to close the National Grid public hearing.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rock on the line.
Josh Antrim, aye. All right, moving on to new business.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a vote on the Clean Water Trust borrowing. Someone has to read that whole thing.
I'll volunteer to read it.
All right.
It's a long one, and then at the end, any of you can just say, so moved.
Thanks.
So bear with me, everyone.
Yep.
I, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Nahant, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting of the board held May 4th, 2022, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified and at which a quorum was present, the following vote was passed, all of which appears upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted, 1, that the town shall issue a bond or bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,767,852, the bonds, pursuant to chapters 29C and 44 of the general laws, of which $2,167,852 is under a vote of the town passed April 28, 2018, Article 23, which authorized a total borrowing of $4,090,500. $4,600,000 is under a vote of the town passed September 26, 2020, Article 14, as validated by Chapter 45 of the Acts of 2021, which authorized a total borrowing of $4,600,000, and $3 million is under a vote of the town passed September 27, 2021, Article 1, which authorized a total borrowing of $3 million for the construction of sewers and other pollution control facilities identified in such votes, the project. 2, that in anticipation of the issuance of the bonds, the treasurer is authorized to issue an interim loan note or notes from time to time in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,767,852. 3, that each bond or note shall be issued as a single registered security and sold to the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, the trust, at a price determined pursuant to the financial agreement. 4, that the treasurer is authorized to determine the date, the form, the maximum interest rate, and the principal maturities of each bond and note, and to execute a financing agreement or agreements with the trust with respect to the sale of the bonds and notes. such date, form, and maturities, and the specific interest rate or rates of the bonds and notes to be approved by a majority of the Board of Selectmen and the treasurer, and evidenced by their execution of the bonds or notes. 5, that any certificates or documents related to each bond and note, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and all of which shall constitute one and the same document. Delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document. And electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents and all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as original signatures. 6, that all action taken to date by the town and its officers and agents to carry out the project and its financing, including the execution of any loan, commitment, or agreement by the treasurer, are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. And 7, that the treasurer and the other appropriate town officials are hereby authorized to take any and all actions necessary or convenient to carry out the provisions of this note, including execution and delivery of the financing agreement and the project regulatory agreement relating to the project. I further certify that the vote was adopted at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda of the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above vote, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building that the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03 2B. At least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the bonds or notes were taken in executive session, and that the official record of the meeting was made available to the public promptly and remains available to the public, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, as amended. I further certify that the vote has not been amended, supplemented, or revoked and remains in effect on this date, dated May 4th, 2022.
So moved.
Seconded.
Good job, Tony. Discussion, yeah, so Tony, if you still have the voice for it, can you explain this Clean Water Trust borrowing?
Yes. In 2018, the town, in the town meeting of April 28th, 2018, Article 23, the town approved a general borrowing of $4,090,500. Since then, we've had 2 separate votes at 2 separate meetings that authorized funding through the Clean Water Trust, the sewer revolving fund. It's a long-term, low-interest borrowing mechanism that can be used for sewer projects. When we when we received the bids and the awarding bid for the Linway job, and it exceeded the amount authorized through town meeting of those later 2 articles. The total project is around 9 million, and we had around 7 million approved by town meeting to go through the sewer revolving fund. The DEP approved us for the entire cost of the Linway job, $9 million. So there's about $2 million there that we didn't think we had authorization by town meeting to use sewer revolving fund money to pay for the project. However, working with DEP, we were able to work with them to allow for the 2018 vote that we did in April 28th of 2018. That was for the 4.09 million. And we told them how much we had as a balance. It covers the difference And they're allowing us to use that vote as authorized to go through the sewer revolving fund. So essentially now we're able to put the entire cost of the Linway job through the SRF program, use the balance of that $4 million from 2018 towards the project and towards the payment of this bond. And then this is one of the articles at the upcoming town meeting where we were talking about needing to borrow 20 million. Now we only have to ask for 18 because we're utilizing that previous authorization. So it's ultimately it's a good thing for the town, and it works out to be a better interest rate than the original 2018 borrowing.
So in summary, it's a consolidation of previously approved spending, previously approved at annual town meeting spendings into a single low interest loan. So there is no new, just to be clear, there's no new debt being incurred here. There is consolidating previously approved at town meeting borrowing.
Correct. And not only is there no new debt here, but it actually helps us not ask for as much additional, borrowing authorization at the upcoming town meeting.
Right.
So just to be clear here, these bonds are being issued through the trust, which is the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, right?
Correct.
So the town is not going out in the market with these bonds. The trust is, correct? And they have the interest rates.
Correct.
Correct.
But
Okay.
in the 2018, that 2018 borrowing of 4.09, the town actually performed that borrowing on its own. Now SRF is allowing us to use that authorization to
Gotcha.
approve SRF. So essentially what we'll do is we'll be able to use those funds to pay invoices as the project works its way, through its progression to complete. And at the end of the project, we'll be issued a long-term low interest bond through SRF. And right out of the gate, we'll be reimbursed the funds that we paid, all those invoices, and we can use those funds to pay down that bond. So we're actually eliminating a higher interest rate from the previous borrowing that was done in 2018 and kind of shifting it into the long-term low interest SRF bond. And paying down about $2 million right away.
Yeah. So we the town initially issued the bond, correct, at a certain interest rate, and now we go through the trust, and that interest rate will be lower. So does the trust pick up the difference of that? How does that work?
Yeah, we had asked that question. I believe the answer is yes, Mark. I'll have to double check with what they responded to us, because I had asked that. We've already accrued some interest on the borrowing because it was done in 2018.
Right. I don't know. Brendan, I see Brendan on, Tony.
He is.
Yeah. I don't know if he knows.
Brendan, are you
I am on.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, sorry.
Pop quiz.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer to that question off the top of my head. But it's certainly something that we can look into. I don't have. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. As long as we pay the lowest interest rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
It's just, Josh, maybe I missed this, but if we approve this, does that fix the interest rate?
Yeah, approving this allows us, this vote is required so that we can issue the long-term bond through SRF. And the long-term bond is a fixed 30-year interest rate.
Thank you.
That rate is not specified in this motion here though, right?
No.
Yeah.
Because right now we have short-term borrowing on that lower amount, right?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Which is
This
at
will
a
allow-
higher rate.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, next item on the agenda is ongoing business, and the first item there is the 2022 town administrator goals. This is not a vote, but just to provide some background on this. We set goals for the town administrator every year, starting last year. And the way this process worked is each selectman created a list of goals for the town administrator, and Tony created some suggested goals for himself. And I took those 4 inputs and sort of eliminated the overlaps and so on, and kind of wordsmith it. So I think we should consider this list of goals as a draft, and we can look at it. I didn't feel like it was my role to eliminate anyone's inputs. I did wordsmithing, but I did not weed out anyone's goals. So with that, we can look at them, I guess, and read through them and see what editing. I don't know if we should try to edit on the fly, or you could give me general comments, and I can edit them following those comments. I'm going to open the document.
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, if you want, I can just read through them, and then we can come back to anything anyone has comments or suggestions on.
Would it be worth it at all to go through these individually like we did prior year?
Not sure what you mean exactly.
Well, we broke it down this prior year by different categories.
Yeah, I don't know, Gene, if I emailed these out just a couple hours ago. Maybe you haven't seen them yet. But,
I have not seen them.
okay, so Tony's sharing them. So again, additional background. Last year, we kind of categorized these into 4 major categories, and we kept those same 4 categories again, which are budget and finances, communication, general government and administration, and infrastructure. And I actually changed that infrastructure one to, last year was just infrastructure. I changed it infrastructure and climate change preparation. So those are the 4 buckets.
Correct.
And as I mentioned, I took everyone's input and assigned them into the appropriate bucket. And there was obviously, not surprisingly, quite a bit of overlap between the 4 inputs. So this is sort of the distilled version. I think everyone can see it on the screen, but I'll just read through them really quickly, and anything we want to return to, please keep it in mind, and we'll come back to it at the end. So budget and finances. The town administrator shall oversee monthly reconciliations from the town accountant, town treasurer, collector, and report findings to the Board of Selectmen. Implement auditor's management letter recommendations in conjunction with the town accountant and the town treasurer, collector, and other department heads. So that one is a direct carryover from last year. Review with the Board of Selectmen a 5-year financial forecast for the town, as well as a 5-year capital improvement plan. Review all revenue and fees and provide recommended changes. Ensure development of rules, regulation, and fees for temporary rentals if the town wishes to permit such commercial establishments. Under communication, the town administrator shall continue to provide improved access for Nahant citizens to information, particularly on current and upcoming town projects, including approximate scope and schedule. A dedicated projects page on the nahant.org website is suggested. Continue to maintain an open and transparent atmosphere and ensure that all Board of Selectmen members are informed of all important matters impacting the town. That is another carryover from last year. Maintain effective and positive communication among all town boards and committees. General government administration. Town administrator shall make timely appointments to all boards and committees as specified in the special acts and or directed by town meeting. Maintain annual good goals and objectives for all department heads and perform annual performance evaluations. Additionally, reviews should include project updates, personnel reviews, equipment needs, and grant opportunities. Continue to provide a safe, effective, and cordial work environment for all employees. Another carryover. Quarterly status reviews with the Community Preservation Committee, CPC, reporting on status of new, completed, and planned CPC projects. School department general semi-annual reviews with the superintendent, principal, and school committee chair. Reviews should include, but not be limited to, number of teachers, administrative staff, students, and additional personnel. Teaching needs, including teaching tool, software updates, and grant opportunities. Character and intellectual development of students that strengthens the reputation of the community. Develop and apply, number 6, develop and apply for state approval of housing production plan if budget is approved at 2022 town meeting to address the affordable and elderly housing needs. Number 7, encourage public community events. In support of community event planning, there should be a web page on, with updated public land use policy, how events are approved and what fees are included. Number 8, negotiate union contracts for Nahant Police Department, Nahant Fire Department, and Department of Public Works in a timely fashion. And number 9, continue and enhance Nahant's public open spaces and recreational facilities. Under infrastructure and climate change preparation, the town administrator shall, there's a little grammatical error here, but regular and consistent upgrade to the town's infrastructure while making every effort to seek out and take advantage of available grants. Consider full-time, number 2, consider full-time environmental planner / grant writer with the flexibility to use this individual for other projects. Number 3, create and publish a hazard mitigation plan and flood protection 5-year plan. The plan shall include kickoff meeting with the Conservation Commission and quarterly reviews with Concom. Plan to include but not be limited to the items listed in the climate change preparedness goals, which are coming up, I think. Number 4, prioritization of climate change preparedness projects include the significant progress on, and here's a list of those items. FEMA funded storm damage repair jobs, 40 steps, coastal bank and beach, Willow Road revetment, Short Beach Dune by Little Nahant. Next page, Doggy Beach Dune and revetment, entire Short Beach Dune project, lowlands drainage projects as recommended by the engineer, feasibility study of a seawall behind the private homes on Castle Road, increasing the height of Tudor Beach. I think that's supposed to be Tudor Beach Wall, my fault, a seawall. Compost area resiliency plan, and initiating a long-term study of impacts of storms to prepare Nahant for the future. That was number 3 with all those items. Number 4, continue with progress on meeting requirements of the Mass DEP consent order for 2021. Number 5, advance the Ward Road sewer pump station project if budget is approved at 2022 town meeting. And number 6, finally, install new fiber-based phone systems at public buildings. That's it. Do we have any comments on any of these goals?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a little concerned that, you know, I don't want to get to the point where I'm micromanaging either. I think all of the points that are important, and I'm confident that Tony will work through them. I am a little, I guess I'm wondering about the goal of schools and why we're getting involved in that at all. Seeing that there's a separation between, you know, schools and town government. So, but other than that, I'm fine with them.
Well, you know, to answer the school situation, I didn't put that in necessarily as a goal or an objective, but more of a review procedure. Because I think the schools are such an integral part of drawing people to the town. I know I don't know enough about what's going on up at the school, and I talked to Tony about the possibility once every 6 months, once a year, of having the superintendent principal come down and talk to us, tell us what's going on, bring us up to date. I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. I guess my only issue here, Gene, there is a separation. There is a school committee that's duly elected, that's responsible for managing and running the school department. They don't report to the town administrator. I know that Tony includes the superintendent in his department head meetings each month. They have a good working relationship. I'm just a little concerned about, you know, and I like your idea of inviting the superintendent to some of our meetings for an update, but they have their own meetings that are public also. So, I mean, anyone who's concerned with the school department can certainly join their public meetings anytime they have them. I'm just, you know.
Yeah, no, and I'm just looking at it as a review, an overview, maybe. You know, to talk about, you know, like I think Tony or Josh just mentioned it, we'd be talking about the level of education providers, which we know is strong, what kind of tools they need, software, IT, the things that would make their job easier. But I'd also like to know how many kids are in the school, staff, support staff, things of that nature. You know, one meeting, one night.
Yeah, I think, I guess I share some of the concerns with this particular goal. It's sort of very specific, and, you know, it does sort of make it seem like we're trying to control, and not necessarily control, but I think, Gene, I agree that obviously the schools are really important to the town of Nahant. That's, you know, good schools drive real estate prices, and Nahant is almost 100% reliant on real estate tax as its primary revenue stream. So I certainly like the idea of making sure we're informed. As Mark pointed out, you know, we can always go to their meetings, and I try to listen to their meetings from time to time, but, you know, I don't think that's the place for me to sort of get an overview. Perhaps I can take a shot at revising this as into more of an annual or semi-annual status report from the superintendent, something like that. If that's
Right.
Is that an acceptable? This goal is really yours, Gene. Is that an acceptable way of addressing your your objective here?
Yes, I think, I'm guessing that the superintendent, principal, and the school committee chair would probably like to share for a half hour, an hour, some of what they're doing, and we can take that in and thank them for it.
All right, so I'll take the action to come up with revised wording in that spirit, and I'll submit it to Tony, and who can distribute to you all. Obviously, we can't deliberate outside of a public meeting, but I'll send a revised version of that particular goal to you, Tony, and we'll take it from there.
And hey, they may not want to participate in that, and that too is okay. I don't want to be jumping into something that they're not going to be comfortable with.
I know,
Can I make a suggestion?
sure.
Yeah,
You know, that may, because it's still kind of awkward of it being a goal of mine. But maybe the goal that you're asking for of me is to, you know, have consistent communication with all the department heads and report, you know, basic status and statistics of, you know, each of those departments up to you, you know, on an annual or biannual basis of some sort, instead of it being specific items only to the school. It could just be a little bit more general of, because when I read this, you know, like I said, I create, once these goals are established, I then create goals for the department heads that report to me. You know, I don't create goals for the clerk or for the assessor or for the librarian, but I create goals for the accountant, the treasurer, the, you know, police chief, fire chief, DPW superintendent. Because those other ones are, you know, while we have a great working relationship and there is, you know, constant communication, which is important for the overall good of the community, it's awkward because they don't technically report to me. So
I'm not going to argue it. I'm just basically saying it was maybe maybe I framed it incorrectly, but it's just looking for a review.
yeah, that's why I mean, maybe my suggestion is maybe it's more of just a goal of the town administrator to provide an annual review to the Board of Selectmen of the different departments, you know, throughout the town. And then I can work with those department heads to provide me that information and or invite them to a Board of Selectmen meeting.
I think that
We're due for that anyhow, aren't we? With the department heads?
No, well, I mean, you had talked in the past about wanting to, you know, meet directly with the department heads and set goals for them, but that's my role as town administrator. But for like the school department, for the assessors, for the clerk, for the librarian, those department heads who don't report to me, you know, could be invited to join a Board of Selectmen meeting and report to you, you know, things that are within their department.
yeah, so I'll reword it into a fashion so that it is an action for you, Tony, as a town administrator. I can send that off to you.
Okay.
Yeah. And on number 6 below this, develop and apply for state approval of a housing production plan if the budget is approved at annual town meeting to address affordable and elderly housing needs. I know that the article does not reach quite that far. It gets that process started. So I wrote it this way with that knowledge, but I'll explain my logic, and feel free to object, any of you. So I wanted to set the bar higher than the article, because I'd rather have you get a 90 on a high bar than 100 on a low bar. So I'm not sure if that's really fair, but that was my logic.
So the reason the language is written that way is it's not that a housing production plan is a higher bar than other items that we would, some other document referred to as a plan with its goal of producing housing needs identified by our community. The reason it's written that way, and the reason I had responded to the draft of this with my comment, is that when we spoke with MAPC and we spoke with DHCD, the term housing production plan is a defined term by statute, and it's very specific. It's specifically a plan that a community would seek approval for from the state to use to potentially provide temporary safe harbor against unfriendly 40B. Not really always, there are elements of that plan that will help direct a community towards achieving certain housing goals. So the latter actually, in my opinion, might even be a higher bar if you put it that way, because even if our first step is to kind of assess where the town is with our Chapter 40B requirements. If we meet those requirements, a housing production plan isn't necessary, because by meeting those requirements, we are not subject to a potential unfriendly 40B development. However, we still have significant housing needs as identified by the Board of Selectmen, and I'm sure a public process that we're going to seek to proceed. So there are elements of a housing production plan that we may still try to go after and still try to accomplish, even though we don't need a DHCD approved housing production plan. So it's actually just because of the way that MAPC explained it to us and how it's defined. It's a defined term. I think the language here in the goal is fine and it works fine. But when I read it, I wanted to make that point so that we all understood, what what we're going to hopefully accomplish over the next year.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I can work with you on potentially editing this goal, but I think you get the idea. This is I think we all agree that addressing affordable housing and elderly housing in Nahant and protecting the community from 40B and unfriendly 40B development is a high priority, and I want to keep our foot on the gas pedal on this and not drag our feet. That's been going on for, we've been, remiss in aggressively addressing this, since 2008 when it became a law. So it's time to really make some progress here. But I'll get together with you, Tony, and we'll see if this one needs any revision.
I agree.
Hey, Tony, speaking of housing, have we heard anything back from the MBTA or the state on the housing situation?
No, they have not released any second draft since they've received our comments, or, I think they got a lot of comments from a lot of communities.
I would think.
Goal number 4 under infrastructure and climate change preparation. There's a long list there. You comfortable with that list, Tony and Jean and Mark?
I've been on, so every 2 weeks I'm on a call with FEMA. And then every month I'm on a call with CZM and DEP and, our engineer and project manager are on those calls too. And, we're going full force on trying to make progress on those FEMA funded storm damage repair jobs, which, I guess your list is in ways repetitive, but not, because, like, for instance, a FEMA funded storm damage repair job is the 40 Steps Coastal Bank. However, DEP and CZM won't permit just the repair job. They want us to go beyond that and do some mitigation. So they're kind of the same thing, but extended version of it. But either way, we're for the Willow, for 40 Steps and for Doggy Beach, we're going to be going through a Chapter 90 licensing process, which could take, months. And for many of these projects, we're going to have to go through MEPA permitting, which would take many, many months. So it's possible that we're not into construction a year from now. But even that, having those permitted, having those designs permitted or well through the process of permitting is significant progress. So I'm okay with the way this is listed.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to point that out. That's certainly that's recognized that some of these things take a long time, even if we don't want them to. So that's why the sort of, I'm trying not to say weasel word of significant progress is in there, but I mean, that's what it means. It doesn't mean these things necessarily will be completed in 2022, but we want to see measurable progress on all these items. And I think that, most of these items actually came from you, Tony. So, and I did break out the FEMA funded storm damage repair jobs from the ones that you just pointed out are included in that, in part because people might not know that, for example, the 40 Steps Coastal Bank and Beach are part of that. So I listed it out as kind of like a line item for clarity.
Yeah, this is definitely, these jobs were, probably at the top of the priority list for the town prior to, COVID kind of taking over our main focus into public health. Now that we're kind of turning the page, these definitely need to be brought back to the forefront and need to be spent a lot of time on so we can make progress. So
would you mind sharing the next page just for a moment for anybody that's on Zoom, and so the rest of us? Yeah, so a few more, or quite a few more items there. Doggy Beach, entire short beach dune, lowlands drainage, feasibility of a seawall behind the private homes on Castle Road. That's a interesting new concept that's come up. So
it may not be a seawall per se. It may be, some sort of soft structure. We'll see what the state regulatory officials, allow us to look towards, but
yeah,
some type of storm surge prevention, infrastructure in that area would be very helpful to the lowlands neighborhood and, the sewer pump station and the National Grid substation.
Yeah.
Be interesting to find out how those breakwaters over in Winthrop have worked out for the town of Winthrop. That would be
It worked out very well for the beach stand there. I can tell you that. It hasn't worked out very well for the Winthrop Beach.
No,
but I was a member of the Metropolitan Beaches Commission for a number of years, and I spent a lot of time taking a look at improving metropolitan beaches, and whenever those sort of breakwaters were put in, it just devastated the beaches. I mean, it's probably protected in storm surge, but you can't keep sand in those beaches any longer because of that.
Yeah, what's it, scour?
Yeah, it's just a mess. I'm not interested in those things at all, to be honest with you, Chief. But
any other
The last one there, K, initiate a long-term study of impacts
Yeah.
of storms. That one is of particular interest to me. I think that that's something, we've already kind of started exploring with different firms, consulting firms, and seeing what's out there. But essentially what we're looking to do there is cross-reference data from recent storms and future storms to the damage that occurs all around Nahant. And so what that would help us do in the long term is that when we have, a certain type of storm coming from a certain wind direction and storm surge hitting at a certain high tide, and all these different data points could actually help identify our most vulnerable areas in town for that storm. It helps with preparing neighborhoods for those impacts. And then long-term range, it helps us prioritize all of these other items that you have listed there. Because if a certain type of storm is the most common type of storm and it produces a certain type of damage, it might move in a certain point in a certain area of town, it might move that up the list in the priorities, so that's an interesting, more, I guess, like qualitative analysis that doesn't produce, a dune or a wall, but it gives us data and information that helps us, plan for the future. So that's a cool one that I'm glad made it on the list.
Good one.
Yeah, if you think your list is too short, Tony, let us know and we'll see if we can add anything. No, this is an ambitious set of goals, and I'm really glad we implemented this process starting last year. I think it helped it helped us keep our eyes on the prize, so to speak, on these items last year, and hoping the same thing for this coming year. So you'll have a busy year ahead.
It helps move things along.
Tony, one of the ones I put in I'm particularly interested in is the monthly reconciliation report from the accountant and the treasurer. It gives me a good snapshot about where we stand each month with our revenues and our expenditures.
Yeah.
And we don't need to review it every month, but it's just we can get a copy of that every month. I just find it very useful.
Absolutely. And even so that's something that we can start doing right away, but even better, once Munis is implemented in about a year, each of you would have a login account that you could log in and get as deep into the weeds as you wanted to.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
What's the timing on that, Tony?
Probably about a year. We don't have. They usually say like 4 to 8 months, but that's when you have like a ton of staff that you can put on the project. Where we don't really have that, it's probably gonna take a little bit longer. So after town meeting, we've already gone through the procurement process. Munis was the selected bidder, so it's just an implementation process now that could take anywhere from 8 to 12 months.
Okay, so I'll work on the wording of the two goals we discussed with you, Tony, and then we can approve the goals at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right, that's the plan. Next item on the agenda is to approve employment contracts for the fire chief, the police chief, and the DPW superintendent. We have separate motions for each of those contracts. If anyone available to read those motions?
Yeah, I'm looking for them.
I can start with the first one if you want. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote. You got it? Okay,
Are we doing?
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Right.
I'll do the first one. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the employment contract for Nahant Police Chief Timothy Furlong as presented with a term date of June 30th, 2024.
Second,
Discussion. I read through the contract and looks good to me. I have no suggested changes.
I haven't looked at the revision since the last time that you suggested, Josh, that we make sure that the contracts are consistent with our employee handbook. So that's been done.
Yeah, and they're consistent across the three contracts in terms of the wording.
That was a great pickup. That's good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and
Josh Antrim, aye. Next motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the employment contract for Nahant Fire Chief Austin Antrim as presented with a term date of June 30, 2024.
Seconded.
Yeah, why don't you second it? Discussion. Since Austin Antrim is my nephew, I will abstain from this vote.
My only suggestion is I wish it could be longer, but I'm glad I'm approving. I'm going to vote to approve this contract.
Okay, Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and
Okay, next motion for the superintendent. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the employment contract for Nahant Department of Public Works Superintendent Zachary Taylor as presented with a term of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. Discussion. Any discussion?
The only problem with having all of these on contracts expire at the same time, Tony, you could have a revolt on your hands. It's
Well, there's a year difference.
Zach is 1 year difference.
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yep.
Zach's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah, doing an outstanding job, and so we're the Chief Furlong and Chief Antrim. We're lucky to have Zach Taylor as well. Any further discussion on this contract? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye.
I want to thank you. If I can, I would like to thank you, the board, for supporting all three of those contracts. As you mentioned, Zach is, he's in his final year of his initial 3-year contract. He's going to be going into his second 3-year contract. The Chief Furlong and Chief Antrim are in their first year of each of their first 3-year contracts that you just approved. And I'll just say that, the town is extremely lucky to have all three of them. Chief Furlong, picking up right where Chief Dwyer left off and doing a phenomenal job. Chief Antrim, again, another phenomenal hire for our town, resident here, and, really lives and breathes the fire department. And Zach Taylor, a former resident of the town, but, again, all three of these gentlemen go beyond, the call of duty for their respective departments. And I just, the town's really lucky to have them. So thank you for supporting those contracts.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing how smoothly the transition has gone, with these people retiring, the police chief and Chief Palumbo, and also, Debbie Waters transitioning to Allison. It's been amazing how, the transition has been so smooth. So really happy about that.
Yeah, we have a great team. Everybody works together. Those department head meetings we do twice a month, and it's always a enjoyable hour. I'm sure many of them are eager to move on and get back to their day-to-day tasks at the end of those meetings, but they're great. Everybody's kind of like finishing each other's sentences and being helpful to one another. There's no problem that somebody hasn't come across in the past or knows something or someone that could be helpful. So everything's I really am proud of the team that we have here. And like I said, for the town and a half, for the residents of the town, we're extremely lucky to have all the talent that we have.
Yeah, I'm as a town resident, not speaking as a selectman, but just as a town resident, I'm just really grateful for having our town employees too.
What's important here, I think, too, Josh, it shouldn't be overlooked, is that you mentioned some of the people who are retired who are also great, but this is Tony's team now, and Tony, you're the quarterback here, and you picked a great team, and they support you, you support them, and it's well oiled, and I think you'll have a bright future ahead of you, and the town will too.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, next item on the agenda is preserving East Point. I don't have anything new to report there. We had a good report out by Attorney Blake a few weeks back, and I don't have anything new to add. I don't know if Gene or Mark, if you had anything, or Tony.
Just that on East Point, I know we have a sort of a May Day type of event that's being coordinated by Jim Walsh and a few. I know he's been working with Zach and Tony on this. So I think that's May 14th, is it, Tony?
Yes.
Yes.
There's 9:30 to 1:30 is a arts and crafts type of fair down across from Canoe Beach at the Memorial Park. And then in the afternoon, there is, I think, music and dancing event at the top of East Point.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun last year. Hope everybody makes it up there. Yeah, fun event. All right. Next on the agenda is Town Administrator's Report.
So for town meeting info sessions in preparation, I just wanted to publicly announce that I'll be hosting 2 info sessions prior to town meeting for anybody that is interested in attending, asking questions about the articles. It's really an opportunity for residents to get familiar with what's going to be discussed at town meeting, and answer any questions ahead of time that anybody might have. So I'll be hosting those on the next Wednesday, the 11th, at 6:30 p.m. and then Monday, the 16th at 6:30 p.m. And I'll probably do those in a hybrid fashion. So if anyone's interested in coming to the town hall and doing more of a in-person format, you're welcome to join me in it'll be in one of the conference rooms downstairs, and I'll Zoom that meeting so it's available for people that want to follow online. And so I will put those on the community calendar.
Are you still doing one at the village church on Friday?
This Friday at 8 a.m., the Village Church Community Breakfast, monthly community breakfast, starts back up, and I'm lucky to be the first speaker. So at 8 a.m. At the Village Church, I will be there and presenting. There'll be more of a high level, at 8 in the morning. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds for folks there enjoying their breakfast, but it'll be more of a high level overview of the budget and the town meeting and the process. But those other info sessions on Wednesday, the 11th and Monday, the 16th are more informal and opportunity for people to, more of a back and forth if there's any questions about some of the articles that are on the warrant.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people to satisfy their curiosity about what's going to happen at town meeting and get some questions answered ahead of time, which helps town meeting move smoothly. So I definitely encourage anybody listening to attend one of Tony's sessions.
Also, the Finance Committee report and recommendations of the Advisory and Finance Committee book has been printed. These are going into the mail tomorrow, so you'll be receiving your copy by next week. I also wanted to share my screen for a minute. This web page it will probably go public either tomorrow or Friday, but we created make sure it pulls up. Okay. Share my screen. A lot of questions we get in the town hall is about process as well, and really understanding, how we get to this point in time is part of that, that informational session that I talk about. So we created this annual town meeting page on our website that it's not public yet, but we're basically walking through it to try to show people what the process kind of looks like. So in chronological order, the first step of the process is the citizens and committee petitions. And here in this box here, you can see it talks a little bit about that. The deadline being the 31st for the town charter. You can click on the citizen petition, and it'll pull up a blank form for you. And then here is a list of any citizen petitions that we received this year for the upcoming town meeting. If you click here, it'll bring you to that citizen's petition. And then there's a few, other pieces of information here. The next real step of the process is the Community Preservation Act, which they have their own page on our website, but it's part of this process, so we wanted it to be featured. And so from here, you could actually click over to view the CPA. You could click to download a copy of the application, although the deadline has passed at this point. But this, next year will be up. This will carry over to next year so people can see this early on. And then there'll be a comprehensive list of applications will be on the CPC page that you can get to from here. While the CPC does their work, the Board of Selectmen are producing the first version of the Omnibus Budget, and then we submit it to the Advisory and Finance Committee, and that budget might change as we go through the process. So as we do that, in the upcoming year, we can actually post the different versions of that here on this site so people can follow along when those changes are made. Also, I think it kind of gets lost that the omnibus budget voted on at town meeting is actually the Finance Committee's budget. So even though the Board of Selectmen and I work together, we put together a draft, we send it to the Finance Committee, it's actually their budget that gets voted on under the omnibus article. However, it's the Board of Selectmen's warrant. So the Board of Selectmen control what articles are featured on the warrant. And the same thing, we change that throughout the process. We add new articles, we change language, we change the order in which they appear on the warrant. And so that gets posted here that would get posted here as well. The final version of both are available here. But like I said, in the upcoming year, next year, you actually have different versions available to you. So you can see how they changed over time. And then the Advisory and Finance Committee are working kind of simultaneously with the Board of Selectmen and the CPA, or the Community Preservation Committee. And they're taking our draft of the Omnibus Budget, developing their own. They're looking at the Board of Selectmen's warrant, publishing their, drafting their recommendations and publishing their final report. So this will, like I said, the report and recommendation hard copy may not get to your mailbox until next week, but as soon as this goes live, you could actually download a copy of it and take a look at it. Here's the final version right there. And then the info sessions that I'm going to be doing, if it's related to, these are just examples. We're trying to finalize this, but for one, Article 28, there's the stormwater bylaw amendment. So up here, we kind of add these are kind of like what would be in the appendix version of the hard copy of the FinCom book will be available here. So any type of PowerPoints or, reports or studies or backup info, we'd have here on this page. And then there's some general information down here at the bottom about when you register for town meeting. So we're a little behind schedule on this, where this year, the version of, once this goes live, you're just going to see the final versions of a lot of things. But we now have this created so that in the future, it's a more interactive web page, for the process of developing the budget and the warrant for town meeting.
That is phenomenal. Guys, thanks for showing that to us. That is really great tool, Tony.
Yeah, it's something we've been talking about for a while, but now with the new website, these are things that we have like the capability of doing. So unfortunately, we've just been so busy focused on the actual work related to town meeting. This kind of is coming at the tail end, but once it's built, it can be used proactively in the future. So
yeah, no, that's a great tool for the citizens. And to console you, people probably aren't going to be looking at it too much in October and November. It's really as town meeting approaches when they're going to want to utilize that page the most. So that's really great.
Yeah. And also helpful for the members of the Community Preservation Committee, for the Finance Committee, for the Board of Select, like for the department heads, a one-stop spot for anybody to go and see what's the latest thing that the Board of Selectmen voted on. It speeds up the process. It's helpful, not just for residents paying attention, but for the people that are actually working on this stuff. It's a quicker way to disperse info too. So 4th of July festivities. So my announcement tonight is a good news, bad news type of situation. Unfortunately, fireworks and firework contractors after the last 2 years suffered pretty hard with communities not hosting 4th of July. And so they weren't able to, some didn't survive. And, and then plus the supply chain issue and hauling costs increasing, it's made it very difficult to find contractors to perform the fireworks for communities. So unfortunately for the town of Nahant, our firework vendor is not able to come and do fireworks on the 4th of July this year. And we called, a ton of other firework vendors to try to find someone, but like I said, there's really not a lot out there and everybody was booked up extra early. However, we were able to secure them for the 9th, which is Saturday following 4th of July. So 4th of July is on a Monday. So the Saturday following is when the town of Nahant will have its 4th of July fireworks. So on the good news side is it's a Saturday instead of a Monday night. So a little bit more enjoyable for the residents. It kind of extends the celebration of Independence Day over a week, you know, with Swampscott and Lynn having fireworks on the Sunday night prior for the 3rd of July. And we're trying to explore some vendors to see if they'd be willing to come to the town of Nahant on the night of those fireworks to kind of enhance the experience of the show and leading up to it. So more to come on that portion of it, but that is our that's my 4th of July announcement.
So are the fireworks officially booked for the 9th? Great.
Yes.
I think that's going to be great, especially I know you have some additional plans that you're thinking about, maybe not quite ready for public consumption yet, but I think it sounds pretty exciting. And then what about the Flash Road activities on the 4th?
Oh, so I got to connect with the 4th of July committee that, you know, put together the races. Those might still be the morning of the 4th of July. We might maintain that and still do the horrible parade the night before. It would just be that the fireworks show wouldn't happen until the Saturday following. But I'll confirm that, and but that's the direction we're kind of heading in right now.
All right. Are you able to give us I was just going to ask if you are able to give us a off the top of your head update on the sewer main on the Linway. If you're done with the 4th of July, did you have?
I have my 2-week progress update meeting is tomorrow morning. The Linway force main project really has moved mostly to night work because of traffic concerns on the Linway. They're still making significant progress, even though work has been shifted to nighttime. Substantial completion should be in June. So we're making progress. I'd like to actually, over the next week or two before town meeting, you know, put out like a blog post or press release of some sort with some updated information about the current progress of the current project and, you know, kind of tease the article for funding for future projects.
Sounds good.
The other thing I was going to mention was this past weekend was opening day for the Little League, and you know, the folks, that's a very big volunteer effort, and the Ken Gillette, Christian Bauda, you know, dozens of coaches, fathers, mothers, you know, that volunteer their time to help clean up the field and be part of that process. And Zach and the DPW and G&J Towing actually helped us install a flagpole behind the field, the major league field. The Little League field up top there looks phenomenal. It's the best it's looked in years. And new backstop was installed this past year because of CPC funding. So it looks really, really good. So I just wanted to thank, you know, DPW, G&J Towing, and all the volunteers that are involved with the Little League. It looks awesome down there, and I think they had a great opening day on Saturday.
Hey, Tony, while you're on that, what's the update on the Flash Road Park?
The basketball court.
Yeah.
So we've presented the alternative, the proposed change order to the contractor for the petition we received about installing pickleball courts. And we're just kind of waiting on making a decision about how much that's going to cost and how we would fund it and what the process would be to find that funding. It's very possible that it comes up at town meeting as a transfer article of current fiscal year funds. But that's something that, I'm working closely with the primary contacts of that group of 200 residents that signed the petition, and working with them on, what process to kind of go through. I believe they started a private fundraising effort to show support and to potentially match town funds for whatever the cost of the change order would be. But the goal would be to have that, have that project completed this summer before Park League starts, which I think is mid-July. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else, Tony?
No.
All right, next item is citizens forum. So if anyone has any questions or comments on the Zoom call here, you may unmute yourself and state your name and address.
In the chat, Diane Monteith had mentioned while we were going through the town administrator goals. Diane, do you want to unmute and mention it, or would you want me to read for you?
Sure, I'll just thank you very much. First of all, thank you for saving the 4th of July fireworks. You had me worried there for a second. The good news and bad news. Yes, our traditions are wonderful in this town. And Memorial Day Parade is another one that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But I was asking the question if we could have a progress report on the Green Communities Program projects. Not this meeting, of course, but in the future. Just because I know you've done so much. Tony's running with this with the consultants. And as you know, we did convert the streetlights successfully. So I'm hoping to see an analysis of the energy savings on that. And some, other citizens have asked for that as well. And then the other thing is, could you give us an update, Tony, on any other projects that we have scheduled? I know we said municipal building, LED lighting conversions, and then I'm very curious about the school roof solar project that we get so close to, but not there, and any other future projects that you have scheduled, please, because sizable grants and reduced expenses are what it's all about. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Diane, and thank you for all your help and leadership in that, setting up that energy reduction plan and helping the town become a green community. As you mentioned, we did use our designation grant to purchase our streetlights and convert them to LEDs. That project's complete. We secured our competitive grant after that project. After the designation grant was completed, we secured a second grant through the competitive grant process to convert all interior lighting in our municipal buildings, phase 1 at the school, and all the interior lighting in the other public buildings. And that project is complete. And now we're applying for our second competitive grant to do phase 2 at the school, some heat source, some air source heat pumps at the fire station, the DPW, and a couple other elements that were identified in the plan that you had helped put together. So I think we just submitted that application, so we haven't heard back yet, but and I don't have exact data on how much energy we've saved so far or reduced consumption, since those other projects have been completed, but I can try to find that for you.
Great, thank you.
And the solar project, basically we hit a major roadblock where National Grid essentially was saying that our substation at Wood Road may not be able to handle that size of a solar project. And
Wow.
in order to move forward, there'd have to be some, like at the expense of the town, a significant engineering study on the substation and what type of improvements would have to be made. And then if any improvements needed to be made, that would have to be on the town's, at the town's cost as well. So we kind of hit a roadblock with that. I think the study was going to cost somewhere around like 10 or 12 grand. So something that, we might do in the future to see what the substation may or may not need in order for us to pursue solar at the school, because it would be such a huge project for us.
Wow.
So many benefits. But the result of that study could be, very minimal dollars to upgrade the substation, or it could be, like a significant amount of investment that would basically make the solar project not worth it, not worth itself. So that's where we are with that. We're kind of at a roadblock at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else in Citizens Forum? All right, if that's it, then we are going to adjourn into executive session and won't be returning to open session. Do we have a motion on that?
So moved.
All right, I think maybe I should read the whole motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn to executive session in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy as to impending litigation against HUD regarding 9 Nahant Road, and B, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 6, to consider the value of 9 Little Nahant Road if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and will not be returning into open meeting. And I do declare that open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Andrew, aye. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night, all.
Looks like Ellen has abandoned her computer, so maybe I'll go over there.
I can remove.
Okay.